Susay na tangaklia. Welcome to Khmer Voices, where we shine a spotlight on the achievements of the Cambodian diaspora around the world. I'm your host, Vani, aka Vanny. Niang Kiom Soksabay na! Why? Because later this week, I get to meet my guest today at the Khmer Diaspora Conference in Lowell, Massachusetts. I'll link this conference to the show notes if you'd like more information. And if you're going to be there, don't be shy to say hi to me. I'm going to be doing some rapid fire interviews on the spot. So if you're interested in that, do let me know. Okay, back to the guest. If you're on Instagram and following Khmer content, then surely you've come across Denise's work. She's only just started posting on Instagram January 2025, but has garnered tons of shares and reposts of her captivating and aesthetically pleasing work. Every time she posts on the Khmer Collective, she makes a splash. She's got the talent, the passion, the drive, and most definitely the charisma to take her far. And I'm here for it, cheering her on. Most of you may know her as the photographer behind the Instagram account, the Khmer Collective. But did you know she's got a degree in fashion merchandising? And we talk about whether you need that or not if you want to pursue that path. You'll learn more in this episode. What I love about Denise's story is that she didn't know what the heck she wanted to do with her life. She had no guidance, but you know what she did? She put one foot in front of the other and she took action. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll get there. That was the common theme of our conversation, and she still uses that to this day. I found Denise endearing, and I think that's partly how she's able to capture her subjects so beautifully. Listen on and learn more about her upbringing and how she's using her photography work to document cultural identity, foster healing, and leave a legacy for future generations. Denise, of Khmer Collective, welcome to Khmer Voices. So excited to have you on the show, Own. How are you doing? You just had a show last night.
I did. So I'm still kind of waking up from that.
I didn't have a chance to look at it yet. I just quickly went on Instagram. I saw it in your story, so I'm going to have to ask you about that later. But let's get started with your backstory. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Where do I start?
Start with where you were born. So Atlanta, Georgia, I know that.
Yeah, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the third child out of 5 siblings. And my parents immigrated there in I want to say at the tail end of 83, and they had my sisters. So it was my dad, my sister, my mom. And they lived, they got sponsored by a family. And so then, I'm not really sure the story of like how we all ended up in this one place, but it was basically, I used to think it was just like an apartment complex, but as I got older and started realizing it was the projects. And it was because I was like, wow, there's so many Cambodian people who live here. And it was the projects in College Park, and it was called Georgetown. And I think if anyone from Atlanta listens to it, they'll definitely know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's where they lived for a while, and then we basically my parents settled there and had my brother and me. And so that's where I was born and raised. And
so you mentioned there were a lot of Cambodian people in the complex. Were there other ethnicities or races?
I don't recall anyone other than Cambodian. I know growing up in my neighborhood, we had a lot of Southeast Asian families, but in general, I think in Georgetown, I want to say there was like a huge influx of refugees that came in during the 80s to Atlanta. It's documented somewhere. I'm going to have to go find it because I do want to share it. But I always joke with people like, you don't see Atlanta on the top 10 most populated areas for Cambodians because they don't take the census. So like nobody knows that they're there, but there are a lot of people. There's a lot of Cambodians there.
Hold on. So there's no official census that's taken in Atlanta? Or are you just...
I think that the Cambodians just don't want to
Oh,
take it. It's
right.
more of I don't want anybody to know that we're here. They're gonna, because like I remember I would overhear some of my friends' families be like, "Don't take that. We don't need to take that. They don't need to know how many people live in this house." And I was always
Mm.
like, I don't think it's about that. So they just kind of refuse to take the census. So I think that a lot of people don't realize how many Cambodians live in like the greater, like just Atlanta in general.
Were there more people than there were bedrooms to accommodate them in an apartment? Is that why?
Yeah, I think so. But then I find in the South in general, we have, multi-generational homes, like where there's like the great grandma, the grandma, the parents, and then the children. And so they all like kind of crowd into this house and live together.
Mm-hmm.
Which as I grew older, I started realizing how genius that was. Um, and I wish I could have that, but no, I think that's what it was. And so they were always like, they always assume that there wasn't enough, or they would get penalized for having too many people in the same house.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess there's this mistrust with the government coming from
Oh, yeah.
your background in Cambodia as well.
Yeah. I don't realize that until I got older. So,
How long did you live there?
um, I moved out of Atlanta in 2013. So basically most of my life. And I moved to Dallas at the end of 2013 and I'm still living there.
Okay. And so how old were you? I can't do
It's a
the
good
math.
question. I can't I'm bad at math. Let's
I
see.
definitely
How much
don't fit
now?
the Asian stereotype there.
I'm so bad at it. So then ooh, I think I was 33.
Okay. So
33.
you were in your early 30s when you moved to Dallas.
Actually, no, just joking. This is embarrassing.
Okay.
They're like, this girl can't do basic math. I want to say I was 28 because now I'm just remembering, no, girl, you turned 30. I think you're going to find out how unserious and just.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, I'm going to say 27, 28. I
Okay.
remember that. You know why? Because I'm an astrology girly and I was going through my Saturn return after I moved and it was rough. So yeah, it was 27,
Okay.
28.
What was it like growing up in Atlanta? You said there were a lot of Cambodian people, and you didn't really understand that you were in the projects until much later on in your life.
So in Atlanta, so I'm from College Park, Clayton County. So that's like right by the airport. I always tell
Mm.
people, yeah, I'm right by the airport. I don't think that I realized how I grew up until I left Atlanta. When I started seeing how other people, like, um, assimilated, especially in like Cambodian communities.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do I say this? I think it was when I went to college and I started seeing people that weren't a minority.
Mm.
And I was like, it was a bit of a culture shock. I know that sounds really strange
Mm-hmm.
because in my neighborhood, you were either Black, Lao, or Vietnamese
Mm-hmm.
or Cambodian.
Mm-hmm.
There's really,
It sounded like it was a good childhood for you then, and there weren't struggles that you could see. Like your parents were really good at providing all the necessities.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I looking back on it, I definitely feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that it was very cultured.
Mm-hmm.
However, I mean, like, I know the difference between me and my other peers were we were very Americanized. So that was very alienating for us because we weren't very traditional. We didn't grow up traditional at all. Like traditional Cambodian. We didn't speak the language at home. We weren't, taught any customs or anything like
So you
that.
mean your peers growing up?
Yeah.
Okay, so these other Cambodian kids that lived in College Park, they followed like Cambodian traditions, whereas you weren't really exposed to that at home.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Most
okay.
of us, yeah. And, this is also the South. So you have some people that do still continue the tradition of going to the temple. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have those that go to church. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another a layered history for us too, because, we had, this is under the Bible Belt. This is like Georgia. You have, a lot of, missionaries and churches, youth programs that they did outreach to those, areas like Georgetown and College Park. And, our parents, they're trying their hardest to do what they can with what they have. And you have these people coming in and they're like, hey, we'll take your kids out every Sunday and Wednesday evening,
Mm-hmm.
like free childcare. So, we kind of, did a mix of going to church, but then also going to the temple when we had to with our parents. So it was just, nothing was really explained to us. We just kind of did it because we could.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's really hard to explain.
No, I understand. I think my parents went to church as well when we first
Hmm.
arrived in Canada, and I vividly recall a photo of me and my dad. I'm holding like a picture that I had just colored in, and it was a scene from, I don't know, from I guess when Jesus was born. I can't remember exactly that, but I remember like my dad and myself, and I was just proudly holding my picture, and I don't remember actually being in church, but I have these flashbacks of kind of sitting in church. But I guess we didn't go very long because I did ask my parents, and I'm like, did we go to church? I feel like I remember going to church, and there's this picture of me and my dad, right? And then my dad's like, yes, we did go to church. And my mom's like, yeah, I didn't like how they were telling me what to do, so I stopped going.
I was having this conversation with someone the other day about how, we had the church directory and it was like a photo album almost. And it
Mm.
had like all the pictures of the families. And this sounds really sad, but like you would flip through and then you would see all these Cambodian families, but there were no parents. There were just children. So
Mm.
we looked like little orphans.
Oh. Oh, because they would take you and your parents would be working.
Our parents were like, we're going to
Like,
go to work. Have fun at church. And so I thought about it and I was like, man, that's sad. They probably thought we were all orphans from Cambodia. Meanwhile, our parents are just like, I'm going to go to sleep or I'm going to go to work.
do you have memories of how that was like? How long did you go to church for?
Went to church for a long
Oh,
time.
wow. Okay, so you're well
Um,
versed in the Bible and
Not
Christianity.
necessarily.
Okay.
No, not me. I did go to church a lot, and I think it was more of like a social thing because like this was the only time that we were able to gather together outside of school.
Mm.
But I did go most of my childhood up until probably when I was like 12 or 13 and just kind of started seeing like the differences between, like you said, like being told what to do and then trying to understand like Cambodian traditions and values and how that aligns because there was a lot of contradicting information and I was just like, this is confusing. I don't want to
Mm.
be confused anymore. I'm already confused as it is.
Right? Yeah, just when you're starting to get to know yourself or discovering yourself at 12 and 13, you have all these other existential questions. And it just seems so grand and overwhelming at that age too. And even at even in my 40s, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I have all these questions.
If you ask my parents,
Mm.
I probably started doing that like at 5. So I constantly questioned everything and I think that's one of the things that people like are bewildered when it comes to me and like the relationship I have with my parents, because I've met people that were like, oh, I didn't even know my mom's name or my dad's name until a couple years ago. I didn't know how old they were. I was like, what do you mean? I asked my parents
Oh,
everything.
wow.
Yeah, so I guess like my parents just raised very curious, nosy,
Uh-huh. Well, they never shut
annoyed.
you down.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we were just constantly asking questions.
Well, you mentioned in your bio that you come from a family of artists and makers. Can you tell me more about that? Your
Yeah.
dad was a photographer in the refugee camp, and
Very well documented photographer too.
wow, you got to
He
tell me
has
about
so
that.
many. Yeah, so like I know I shared some pictures that there's like what, like 10 scans, but he has like albums upon albums of photos. And I just remember him telling me that he had picked up a camera and he was just documenting everything in the camp. And I don't know if he was necessarily getting paid, but yeah, he took photos in the camp. I don't know how he got that so well preserved either. My mom, before the war, she was a silkworm farmer. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what you would call it? Yeah. And so she did that. And then when my dad came to the States, he didn't continue in photography, but we had cameras laying around all the time. So like my sister and I always played around with them.
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of how her and I both stayed within that,
How
photography.
did your dad
And
get
then,
his hands on a camera in the camp?
honestly, I've seen pictures of. I should ask him that question. I'm pretty sure he's told me before, but I remember him and several other people having cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I bet if anything, it was kind of like I don't know if they had jobs at the camps, but maybe perhaps that was it. I should ask him that.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Yeah, he probably had a photographer job. That's probably why he had so many
do you
photos.
remember how old he was when he went through um,
I
the
think
Khmer
he was
American?
20. I want to say he was about his early 20s.
Okay, so he could.
Yeah.
And do you know if he had an interest in photography prior?
I don't believe so,
No. Oh, wow.
because majority of his photos all seem to be in the camp. Because he's from Battambang. He's like a farmer. He was
Uh-huh.
like straight up poor guy from the sticks. I mean, sorry, I just like compare everything to like the South. But no, he didn't have very much. So I think that having the camera was probably a luxury for him. For
Mm-hmm,
him,
mm-hmm. Did you ever ask him like what was the why he had documented so many
I don't think
stories?
so. I think he probably has told me before because he's a talker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I've never asked him.
Okay. Because yeah, you're one now, so I'm just curious to see if you had the same sort of thinking that he did.
And a lot of people have been asking me that,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been sitting here like, I don't know actually. Like I feel like there may be a chance where me and my dad have like the same kind of like thought behind the why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking right now.
Okay. Well, let's get back to your childhood. It sounded like you had a good upbringing. Were there any sort of struggles? It sounded like there may be some identity issues there, but that seems common with our community when you're growing up in the West.
I think for sure in the South it's kind of confusing. I feel like because um, you're and I try to explain this to a lot of people about how like our families immigrated to Atlanta in the 80s, and you have to think like Atlanta was like the base of the civil rights movement.
Mm,
And so you have a lot of history that's a little harder for like a Cambodian immigrant to understand, to come to. And so growing up alongside Black people and then Cambodians, it was almost like we were, I don't know how to say this, like we're just trying to find some common ground. And I think that I personally didn't see a difference between us. And so I think whenever I hear discourse about like, black and Asian people not having like solidarity is just like I didn't have that growing up, because we look to each other to kind of, I guess, find, I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it. But there was just a lot of like injustice and racial discrimination and things like that. And so we didn't see any difference between that. And then, we have our families that are trying to assimilate. And so we're assimilating to who we're growing up next to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say it was like a culture shock for me to go to college and meet people that weren't a minority and being like, how did you get all that? You mean you went to college before you came to this college? Like, it's just, they just have like all these advantages that we didn't have. So I feel like a lot of the things that I discovered or learned is a little bit backwards from other people, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by backwards?
Like, I feel like a lot of people were exposed to like privilege and people who had like all these advantages, and then we were poor. But like for me, like we were raised around like poverty, and like,
but you didn't realize that you were.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then you go out into the real world, or outside of College Park, Clayton County, and you're like, what? That's not normal.
Yeah.
And so whenever I hear people talk about it, it's kind of, I always think to myself, like, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but that's kind of like, that was my lived experience, and I thought that was normal.
I just want to go back to what you mentioned about the discourse between the discourse about Asians and Blacks and not having Asians not having solidarity with the Black community. And I really think that's because we Asians aren't a monolith, obviously, right? So when people say that Asians should recognize that we have more in common with the Black community than we have with the white community, I think they're more referring to like East Asians, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, for me growing up as well, like I found solidarity with all immigrant communities. I did grow up surrounded by white people, and I did see the privilege at like 12, 13 years old. So I was kind of bitter about that too. I was like, well, how come I don't have as much as they do? I grew up in a sort of a lower middle class neighborhood.
In Clayton County, I want to say before the like big, huge like immigration, or the refugees came over, I want to say it was predominantly white. And so growing up, it was like we saw the push of like families moving in like further south. And so then I moved around schools because, I had a bit of a special privilege for like someone that one of my parents worked in the county. So I bounced around schools, and I was like, this is like, how is it that I'm going down the street to a different school like 20 minutes away, and seeing how it's just the economics was super confusing to me. Like, and this is just my experience from growing up in Clayton County. Now, as I've gotten to know other people from other parts of Atlanta, they have different perspectives. And so they see Cambodians from the South Side as like ghetto and hood. And so when they find out, like, what the neighborhood I grew up in, they're like, oh, you're from Cherry Hills? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
So how did do you know, how did they grow up?
Not like me. Because most of it's funny because the ones that I meet that are from other parts of Atlanta, they're always like, well, I'm just, I'm whitewashed, or I was, I grew up in this county. And
did they appear proud of that?
Mm, it's
Or
complicated.
were they just, it was just a statement that they made?
I think it's more of a comfortable conversation they're having with me, and
Mm.
it's not something that they would necessarily like say out loud and proud. But like back then, I think it was definitely like a social thing, like a social class thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm not from the South Side. I'm from Gwinnett County, or I'm from, you know, I'm drawing a blank. It's been a while since I've been in
That's
Atlanta,
okay,
but like
because
it's just
that's
like
okay.
North Side, South Side. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's what they would call it, North Side and South Side. And so like if you were from the North Side, you were a little bit more well to do. You had like a nicer house,
Mm-hmm.
or you grew up with different people, and you had a better education. And as far as us on the South Side, we were just a little bit more of like the lower class.
Mm-hmm. So when you were growing up, were your parents, did they push the arts on you? Like, did they expose you to photography? Were they more academically driven, or
I would
were they
say
more
no.
artsy?
Well, I know my dad didn't want to take that joy away from us, like the photography part, but I know that he really tried to get us to be more academic, but that was difficult considering that he and my mom were both
Artists.
basically illiterate. Yeah, they were artists, they were illiterate, they didn't have an education. But then when my dad got here, he had this tenacious drive to like teach himself how to learn, or teach himself how to read and write English,
Mm-hmm.
put himself through vocational school. He went to get, yeah, he like excelled and went and just got like a degree at Atlanta Tech. And then my mom just she didn't really bother too much.
Well, she
But
was
they
raising you
did,
guys, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I understand that now as a mom. But they didn't push too much. They did want us to get an education, but I think it was very difficult for them to grasp what that meant. I think they just wanted us to have good grades. And then
Mm-hmm.
my dad was always like, I want you to be a teacher. I want you to go to college. I want you to do this and I want you to do that. And yeah, I think it was difficult for them to just hammer down on that because they didn't know what that looked like.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And so we all just, we eventually found our way back to our callings, which is art. And so that's how, yeah, it's just, yeah, we just never.
I wanted to touch on advice to your younger self because we were talking about your parents. You said your
Mhm.
mom and dad are living for the very first time. They're doing the best they can with what they have. The love and care that they show you looks different than what you see on TV because it's real. They've been through a lot and you'll figure out why one day. For now, don't try to grow up so fast. Enjoy being a kid. All right. I have a couple questions about
Yes.
your advice there. The love and care that they show you looks different from what you see on TV because it's real. When I was growing up, I would see the kids' parents on TV saying, I love you and hug and, this sort of gentle parenting stuff. But I didn't really get, that sort of affection. What was it like for you? What was the difference between what you saw on TV and your childhood?
So when I would watch TV, I would see like, them eating at the table together, them being in the same house together. It
Mm.
was like they all come from work and school at the same time, and then they, um, corral in the living room. That wasn't our reality. And so our parents were always gone, and we just kind of assumed like they didn't want to be around, but it was more so they were trying to make ends meet.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize like that my parents were working double shifts, or like my parents were working more than one job, because they just kind of they didn't they didn't complain
Mhm.
about it. And if they did, we didn't understand the weight of it because we were kids, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
So for me, I think when I say that, like, seeing the difference between what you see on TV and reality is that our parents weren't present. physically
Mm-hmm.
or emotionally, really. But they were providing for us. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the important part that I didn't understand until I myself became a parent.
Yeah, that's the survival part of our generation that we had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
What about when you say, for now, don't try to grow up so fast, enjoy being a kid?
It probably circles back around to the part where I said that I was always constantly curious and asking questions.
Okay.
Um, because I'm currently having a full circle moment where
With your son.
yes,
Oh.
literally, like my parents will hear him talking to me and asking me questions, and they'll pan over and look at me, and it's like a sitcom again. It's like, and then they'll give me like this look, and I'm like, I know, because it's literally copy and paste of me as a kid, where he's constantly asking these questions, and I'm like, why don't you just worry about being a kid? Like, you don't have to like constantly think about, why this, why that. Just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think back on like my childhood, I was constantly like that, and I had a hard time maintaining friendships
Like,
with my peers.
did you have anxiety?
I have it now. So I probably did. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure when I think back on it, I'm like, that episode that you were having and when you were 7 in the living room was an anxiety attack, and I didn't have the words for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Did you guys go to gatherings and such? Because there was a Cambodian community where you grew up. I remember going to, other people's apartments and having these long nights and you just fall asleep on the couch. Did you have
yeah,
that?
we did go. I think that my parents' relationship with the community was a little layered because, and this is stuff that like a lot of people don't talk about, and it's one of those things I probably don't ask because I'm like, probably none of my business. But I think that the relationship that people have with my dad versus my mom um, were different. So then we wouldn't go to social gatherings
Hmm.
for too long, or uh, because people had a different, I think I said this already, but people have a different relationship with my dad versus my mom, and they're no longer together. So I see my mom going to more social
Hmm.
gatherings than she did when they were together.
Okay.
She's like more involved with the community. The monks come over to her house like at least once a week for coffee. Whereas like growing up, we didn't have that. We didn't
Mm.
have that relationship with the community. And one of the things that I found out last year was that my parents were basically the founding members of the temple, the first temple that was built in the Atlanta area in
Mm-hmm.
Lithonia, which I had no idea. So they were I think my uncle explained it to me where he was like, they were giving percentages of their income monthly to buy the property for the
Wow.
temple. So I had no idea. No idea. So I feel like they were involved, but we didn't know how much they were involved. But we
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to like a whole lot of gatherings. And if we did, nothing was really explained to us. We were just told to go. So we
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like, we're the kids that were just behind our parents and showing up that. But yeah, we didn't get to go to like the house parties and things like that,
Mm.
but we always wanted to. So I think
Oh.
whenever we had the opportunity to go, we would go.
Uh-huh.
And I always envied that with my peers. Like they would always go like I don't know, I felt like every week they were somewhere,
Yeah.
and we just, yeah, it was a special occasion for us.
Okay. When you decided to go to college, how did you determine your major?
So I didn't know if I wanted to go to college at all, really. I was the first one to graduate high school in my family. And so like I said, my parents wanted me to have a good education, but they didn't know what that meant. And so by the time I got to, I want to say my junior year, they were like, well, what's your GPA? I was like, what's a GPA? I'm so serious when I say that. And everyone's like, what do you mean? What's a GPA? I'm like, yeah, what's that? And I was like, you guys got to understand, like, I'm the first one graduating. Like, I didn't have the knowledge or the resources or like anyone to kind of like, stand behind me and say like, you need to do this to get to where you want to be. And so my GPA was like bad.
I'm
And
curious,
so
did the high school you attended, did the high school you attended, did they have like a guidance counselor that you can speak with regarding that?
they did. And eventually that I didn't realize that that was a resource.
Ah.
There's a lack of care in education. I
Mm.
mean, I will say, I don't know exactly what year it was, but they lost their accreditation for a while after I graduated. So
Who's they?
that
The
about
high school or the counselor?
county,
Okay. Mm.
county. So, I mean, that kind of about sums up like, I know that they're better now, but like then I think that there was just like a lot of negligence.
Wow.
And this is like, Georgia public school system, so it's not the greatest. But yeah, I had no idea. I was like, what's a GPA? I have to have this to go there. And then so then I was just like, okay, well, it's coming down to the wire. I have to figure out how I need to get like do the bare minimum. And so I was like, okay, I need to get C's because C's get degrees. And like I gotta like I gotta get there, get it past like a 2.5 something. And then they were like, well, you have to take the SAT. And I was like, what's the SAT? So like it's just like and I'm just dilly-dallying through school, like not knowing any of these things. So then I started researching like, okay, well, if this school doesn't require me to take a SAT, what do I have to take?
Okay.
And so I started like, researching like, okay, this is a requirement. This is a requirement. And so
And
I
when you
was like,
were
well,
researching, the internet wasn't the way it was
no,
then. So
I'm talking about I had to
you had to go to the library?
call a school. I had to call a school and be like, hey, can you send me a pamphlet? Oh my God, that's so embarrassing to think about. Like, we would go to the college, I think it was like the school fair or college fair, and then I would like grab all these little brochures and look at them, and I'm like, this is overwhelming information. And like, I said, well, I guess I'm just not going to be able to go to school. And then I knew that I always had like a love for fashion, and I know my dad was like, absolutely not. But I was like, I think I need to pursue that because one, my GPA ain't that great. Two, I don't have to take a SAT for it. And I was like, and we're coming down to the wire. I have to, like, if I take a break from high school and like what is it called? Like a gap year or whatever they call it. I'm never going to go to school. So I was like, we need to enroll me in something where you're just going to, that's it. You can say goodbye to the education thing.
Wow. Just based on what you told me, the lack of resources, the lack of guidance, it's amazing that you had the wherewithal to actually pursue post-secondary education.
Once I get
Because
to,
you only had your parents telling you, like, you need to get college education. You didn't really have anything else set out for you or, a hand to help you anywhere. So
yeah,
it's quite
that's
amazing.
probably where I get that mindset of, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Much to think about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then I eventually just, I found it was basically a for-profit school. And the paperwork was just way too easy. And I eventually, so I went to school at Botter College. It's no longer open. And I got a degree in fashion merchandising.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking back on it, would I have done it again? I would not do it again because I don't think that you need that to pursue it. Because a lot of people always say like, "Oh, should I go to school for fashion?" I'm like, you don't need to pursue that educationally. You can do that on your own. Because most of what I learned was by experience and just general knowledge, I guess, that I obtained on my own. But
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah, it was more so I want to do this to appease my parents and say that I actually went. But then I was like, you can't get into it, even like a 2-year college, because of your GPA, and you can't take this test and that test because you have to take it and be ready in a few months to, like, enroll. And I was like, I don't have that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just pushed myself in the direction where I was like, whoever will take me in August after I graduate.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was school like then?
It was an interesting experience, because in a for-profit school, you have a bunch of professors that would teach you things about what they learned in the industry and not realizing that they all got fired from their jobs in the industry. So it's just like, why are you teaching me this? And then, so then I was like, let me just, like I said, C's get degrees. Let me get this education and get out of here and go into the real world and try to figure it out. And mind you, like, that was in 2007. So, like, 2008,
The
there were
recession.
no jobs in fashion, like, just completely gone. And so, that was just a very interesting time. So I always felt like it was a waste of time.
Mm.
But in hindsight, looking at it, I think that it was like, I was laying a foundation
Mm-hmm.
for what I would eventually do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, my education, I have a very funny education background. So I feel like I'm not the person that should be preaching to anybody about, like, going to school and things like that. Cause it was, it was more of like, I don't know. I guess I might have approached it from like just a survival mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think you're a good example of doing something to get you closer to where you want to go. Because if you were doing nothing, if you were just kind of just, working part time at a dead end job, you wouldn't have realized what you wanted to do. You kind of wanted to do that, right? But you weren't really sure. Can I
Yeah.
assume that?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think I'm quiet because I'm like, well, I never really thought about it like that. Because I do know a lot of people that did that, didn't pursue their education but worked like a part-time job, and then, they didn't really pursue anything. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, for me, one of the things that a lot of people like to say to me is like, why are you always constantly doing something? And I'm like, I don't know, I just can't not do something. I
Yeah,
have to do something. And it's not necessarily to prove that I'm worth something. It's just, I guess, like, my mind is always hyperactive. I have to constantly be doing.
yeah,
Otherwise, I feel like I get stuck in a rut and I.
exactly. Yeah. You figured out what it is that you don't want to do while you're doing something that you think you want to do. And I don't necessarily think that it's wrong. Like, for example, me, I have a degree in sociology. Like, well, did I pursue sociology afterwards? No, I didn't. But there's a lot of things that I learned in sociology that I apply in my work life now. So there's the
Yeah.
analytical thinking, there's the report writing, um, there's the persuasive writing as well.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
look at it. And you also develop a network, right? Like you meet the people who are trying to do something too. So you're surrounding yourself
Yeah.
with people who are wanting to better themselves as opposed to staying around people that don't really have
It's true. Yeah.
anything that they want to do, and your circle and the energy changes.
Yeah. And I do, that's a good point because I put myself in a position where I surrounded my social circles were like-minded individuals that were constantly doing something. They
Mhm.
didn't necessarily know where they were going.
Mhm.
So then it kept me busy. And then, so one of the things I didn't even touch on was that after college, when I got my degree, I couldn't find a job. And then I was like, well, maybe I need to just get a part-time job doing something in art.
Mm-hmm.
And I typed in art therapy, just kind of seeing like, because I watched a special on like HBO one night and I was like, that sounds kind of cool. And I ended up finding a part-time job at the Emory University at the Autism Center. And I was a teacher for like 8 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I had no previous background at all.
How
And
did you land that with no background and no training?
this is crazy, but like I was on, okay, so like, I don't remember, I think it was my 21st birthday. I remember I made a wish and I was like, I want to find a job working with autistic children. I want to find a job doing some kind of art with them.
You
Like
put it out
I
in the
want to,
universe.
yeah, I can say stuff sometimes. It's so scary how it happens. I say stuff and then it just happens. And so I was on Craigslist, found the job, applied for it. They were like, yes, we'll take you. And I was an assistant teacher and I didn't realize I could work my way in and kind of, yeah, I basically became an assistant teacher. I became an assistant coordinator where I was being like, for a specific classroom and working as a family liaison with the students there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went from the assistant coordinator to a coordinator role. And then at that point, they were like, we could pay for your tuition to go back to school at Emory. But then they got rid of the educational program. So, but I will say that that experience taught me a whole lot about just the psychology and the behavior. Because, like, I always say to people, like, when we talk about behaviors, I always say, well, what happened before the behavior? And then what happened after the behavior? So it's like antecedent behavior, consequence. And it becomes like a pattern, And so I love watching the behavior of people. I love the psychology of people. And I think that I married that part of my background in psychology or like behavioral psychology into the fashion world, which is what I do now. So I think about, and it sounds really bad maybe, but I see like customer patterns, customer behavior, and I take that and kind of mold them together. And so I think when people that don't come from that background hear what I have to say, they're like, okay, whatever, we trust you.
Uh-huh. So I'm not familiar with what you do on a day-to-day basis with your day job, but in terms of your photography work and what I see on Instagram, I see that like you have a way with getting finding portraying the essence of people. And I think
I
that
don't know
comes
how I do it either.
well, that was one of my questions, like how do you do it? But
I think that, and I've been told this multiple times, is that people always say you're just so easy to talk to. And I don't know if it's because I'm a good listener and I've always been a good listener, or people just like talking to me, because a lot of people always say you have such a soothing voice, you should do a podcast, or you should be like, a therapist. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to do all that. And so, yeah,
I actually think your
I don't,
podcast would be quite funny if you start one.
it would be, I would probably be super goofy the whole time, just not getting anywhere, just talking in circles. But yeah, I don't really know how I do it. I think that perhaps it's my approach because before I meet people, before I photograph them, I don't do any background research really.
Mm.
And I think that shocks a lot of people.
Mm.
I just kind of get like the basics. Where are they? What are they doing now? What do they look like? So I know what they look like when I meet them in person.
How do you find them?
So in the beginning, I was finding them, and then now I'll find one like other people
Or
refer
yeah.
me to like a community leader or like someone that is involved in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and they will basically like, point me in the direction of like, oh, I think you should meet this person and that person.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the people I do meet are on my own.
You just reach out to
And
them?
so I do reach out to
Mm-hmm.
them, and I think recently I thought about it. I was like, that is kind of strange. There's a strange person that's like, hey, I don't know you, but do you want to meet up for a photograph? But I don't ask any questions, or I don't really ask too many questions before we meet. What I do say is like, how, uh, the most important thing is like, for your portrait, if you'd like to get your portrait taken, what kind of mood or feeling would you like to portray? Just give me that, and then we'll go from there. And then so then we'll meet, and they'll say like, well, you know that I'm doing XYZ. And I'm like, no, I actually don't know any of that. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about you. This is where you get to tell me everything. And I'll meet people, and then when I go home and I'm like, I just met someone and I just told them I didn't know anything about them, and they have all these accolades and like they're such a big deal, and you're sitting here like, I don't know anything about you. I just and I think that's probably where that rawness comes from
Okay.
in these photographs, where they're just like, wait, you don't know all the things that I've been doing. And I'm like, I have no idea.
Do you see yourself as sort of a journalist, photojournalist and artist?
I'm not sure. I feel like actually I'm not sure. I don't know. I really don't know. um this project has the same, what's the word that I'm looking for? It has the same purpose, but so much of it has changed over time as I'm still kind of like discovering who I am as a person
Mm-hmm.
and where I fit in with the community, that sometimes I'm like, I don't really know what this is going to turn into, but I just want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. There's a theme.
You're answering all my questions. I want to go back to your role as a merchandising, or sorry, it's a fashion merchandising director. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so I'm a visual merchandising
Oh, visual.
manager.
Okay, visual merchandising
Yeah.
manager. What do you do there?
So I basically, my background's in merchandising. So I was always a visual merchandiser. I would, create displays based off of like, what I was given by a company,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of look at like key performance indicators and see like where I needed to impact the business by like merchandising a specific part of the store and things like that. So like now I work for a company where I kind of have that freedom to do that. And it's like we run it like a thrift store, but we have these little pods, what we call pods and shops. And so I create these moments, and I always call like, what's the mood of this pod today, or things like that. And so I have merchandisers that work with me, and then we basically look for product that we know might be like a little bit of a harder sell, or like people might not understand like how to style it or what they would put with it or
Mm-hmm.
like how to wear it. And so we make those displays and merchandise it so that it would encourage the customer to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It
and
sounds like
then
a
we
cool
create,
job.
I love it. I love it so
And you're
much.
saying that
Like,
if someone wanted to get into what you're doing right now, you don't have to go to school for it. How
I would tell them not to go to
so how would
school.
they get started?
I think that they should just work in retail,
Mm-hmm.
like start where you can, and then just show interest
Mm-hmm.
and then be curious. Because I think that's basically what I did. I just stayed curious, always wanting to learn, like, um, how can I get more information on how to do this? And I think merchandising takes a very special kind of person. It can be taught, yes, but I think if it's natural to you, you'll know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I always tell people, don't go to school for it. Just kind of get your feet wet,
Yeah.
see if you like it,
Uh-huh.
see if it comes naturally to you, and then I say pursue
So
it.
how did you
Yeah.
get in how did you get that job after teaching for 7 years?
So when I moved from Atlanta to
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, I didn't really like the teaching job that I had in Dallas, but like Dallas is known for spending a lot of money. And so there's no difficulty in finding a job in retail in Dallas. There's money here. And I applied for applied for a job at one of my dream stores that I always wanted to work at. And I worked there for a little bit. Then I moved around different companies because I got recruited to another company. And then I eventually went back to that company 10 years later and got the dream job that I wanted.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's more so like, staying in that field and not giving up. And then just always reminding myself that it's never too late to try again, or it's never too late to like go and apply for that job, even though you don't feel like you're qualified. Because I mean, I was a teacher for a while with a fashion degree. It made no sense, but like, sometimes you just kind of have to try.
Mm-hmm.
There's no. I'm very much so. There's no right or wrong. It's like you just see what you can get.
Yeah. There's no linear way to get to where you want to
No,
go. There's multiple
right? Yeah.
paths. You started Khmer Collective in 2021, but your first Instagram post was January 2025. Why did you I feel like we touched on this, but not we didn't dive into it yet. So why did you start it in 2021?
So, that was around the time of COVID
Mhm.
and it was very limited traveling. And living in Dallas, I don't have family here. So it's just me, my son, and his dad. And so I would get like phone calls from my family or see it on the online where someone would pass away from like COVID. And I was like, that's so sad. And, like they were like even people that were my sister's age that were passing away. And so then I was like, we have nothing to show. Like we don't have pictures, we don't have documentation, we don't have like if you were to Google us, what would you find? You would find sad stories. And I'm like, that's not fair to us.
Mhm.
And so then I was like, I didn't know what would happen with COVID. I was like, there's so much uncertainty. Like so many people just got sick. And I was like, I feel like there's a need for us to start documenting this. Otherwise, everything's going to be lost. And, we had so many elders that refused to be photographed before. And now it's like we're seeing an importance where we have to document this. And I initially had wanted to do elders. And then I was like, well, let me just try and start somewhere and start with the people that I know
Mhm.
and kind of go from there. And the reason why I started posting it in 2025 was because, I'm doing all this traveling on my own with like the little money that I have, but I was finding enjoyment out of it. So I guess it was a hobby. And then a lot of people that I met that are in like the nonprofit world, were like, you could apply for grants. And I
Mhm.
was like, what's a grant? And so then they were like, well, you could apply for this grant. There's money out there for you. There's resources. And so as I started researching that, I was like, well, I don't have anything to show for it. I've not shown any of my work. I kind of just have collected it and not
Mhm.
really, I didn't know what I was going to do with
Like,
it.
did you have a
And so then
website between 2021 and 2025?
nothing.
Okay.
I was just collecting. Um, no, I didn't have a website. I created the Instagram, but I wasn't really sure if I wanted to share it. And I think a lot of it had to do with me feeling inadequate, not not the right fit to be telling stories for Khmer people because of my feelings of, my identity issues and things like that. And so I was I was scared that if I put it out there, they'd be like, who are you to tell our stories? And so I just was like, oh, I'll just keep it to myself. And then yeah, I just started getting more comfortable with meeting people. And then when people are like, yeah, you could apply for grants and share your website, get it out there. I think that's when, yeah, I started taking it a little bit more seriously.
Where do you see your storytelling headed?
I think when I visualize this, when I sit quietly in a room and I visualize this, I see it in a book for some reason. And that's not the end goal for me, but I think I see it that way.
Like a coffee table book?
Yeah, I want to see it like this thick. Because, like, how many books? You can't go to a bookstore and just pick up a book about Cambodia. And if you do, you know what it's about.
It's either about Angkor Wat or the genocide.
Yeah. And seldom do you ever see pictures and things that, currently tell our story. And so I think that that's what I want to see. I know at the beginning I wanted to see like a traveling gallery where it would just go to these communities. Like, say I wanted to start it in Atlanta because that's my hometown, and then it would be like an opportunity for people to come and travel, and then we could create these events around it where we all meet
Mm,
each other. And it's like what I say, like, they say when you go to Cambodia and have like the homecoming, it's like, well, we can have a homecoming here.
mm.
And where it's like, we're meeting each other again, um, and connecting with one another.
I almost feel like we're a third culture, the diaspora, because we're in the in between.
Yeah.
We're not, fully Western. Like we are fully Western and we are fully Cambodian, but we are in this unique space where we're both.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did meet someone that called himself that. He was like a third
Mm,
culture kid. And I was like, it didn't resonate with me, but then now that you're saying it that way, it makes sense. Because I feel like, yeah, we are at our core Cambodian, but we're raised in this country, but then we're still
hmm
trying to find, like, we're longing for a home, you know?
hmm So you didn't get any sort of formal training in photography and photo editing. Is that all self-taught?
Yes.
How did you teach yourself? Just Google or
No, I
just
think
playing around?
playing around, like, because, going back to, like, growing up with all the cameras that we had, we were just constantly taking photos. And we started with film. We had
Hmm
a family friend that owned a photo lab. And so we would always go drop off our film. And then, like, me and my sister would be like, well, you could do this differently and this differently. And, like, oh, well, what did I do wrong?
You didn't take it in high school or anything? I took a
No.
photography class in high school. That's my exposure to formal training there, but I don't have any photography skills whatsoever. But
I'm
that's
sure you do.
amazing. No, I don't. I don't think I'm not an artist in a traditional sense. I think I'm more of an artist when it comes to like uh just thinking creatively for business.
Hmm.
Like I put the two together, but I don't think I don't have that.
It's more of like the operational.
Yeah, I don't think I have the skill set to do something that's visually appealing.
Yeah. I think I think it was definitely like a trait
I think so
that my
too. I think it's innate. Like I don't think that you
yeah.
can be trained on that.
Yeah, a lot of people always ask me, and I'm like, I was born with. I don't want to say it like that, but I'm like, I was born with that. I don't know. I can't train it. Yeah, because my dad, he had an eye, and so my mom's, she has an eye for things as well,
Uh-huh.
and it wasn't taught to us. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
just we just kind of knew, and so my sister and I would kind of go back and forth with each other, and her and I have very different tastes and very different styles, but we both have an eye.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And neither one of us took any formal training.
Amazing. So I think it's important to share our stories that way too, because like I said earlier, where you want to go is not always linear. And what you do is not a waste of time because it brings you to where you are now. Just don't stay stagnant.
Yes.
So you had a show last night. Tell me about that. That was your first show.
Yeah. So, a friend of mine, Elaine, I photographed her for the project. She loves sending me a lot of grants and artist submissions and things like that. So she sent that to me, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll send it. And I was in the middle of like submitting a bunch of grants and applications. So I just kind of sent that one in, and I forgot that it happened. And then I got an email saying, "Oh, you've been selected." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" And it landed on my birthday, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, I kind of feel like I should just take this as an opportunity to put my work up because, like, I have, like everybody else, imposter syndrome, and just I spent a lot of my life like wanting to be seen by people and understood, and now I'm at this point where I'm just like, I don't want to be seen or understood, like. And so I was like, but the only way to get your project out there and to get more funding to like support these trips where you get to meet people and things like that is to put yourself out there.
Mm.
And so I've never done an art show before. It was a very interesting perspective because I go to a lot of art shows. I love going to museums. I love talking about the art, but then standing there and seeing it up there was confusing. And it was very confusing for me because I would just watch the people watch the art. And then I was like, how are they perceiving this? And one of the guys there was like, it's so funny how you say, how are they perceiving this? Because aren't you the one perceiving the person that you're taking a portrait of? And I was like, well, it's kind of layered. If you don't follow the account, then I don't think you really know my perspective. But that's the point. You have to go follow the account to see. And I chose two pictures that weren't portraits. They were hands
Mm.
because I didn't we have the potential to sell these prints and I don't want to sell anyone's face. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be weird. So I chose those two because they had like little subtle things that were very Khmer centric in the photo that like if you were Cambodian and you went to the gallery and you saw it, you would point it out and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely Khmer. I think having that on display last night and then seeing how people were like, what they perceived from it, like, oh, I love the colors and I love this and I love that. And I'm like, well, you have to follow the account to understand more about the picture behind it because it tells a bigger story. So then I said to myself, now how do I get myself into just a solo exhibit?
Mm-hmm.
Because not enough for me. And so I was
I was
like,
gonna say that. Like, is that something that you hope to do? Just
yes,
like a traveling exhibit.
yeah. So I really wanted to aim for that this year, but after thinking about it, I was like, that's not enough time. I need more time. I need more time to gather. I need more time to figure this out. Because for me, like, I don't like to rush things. I like to do things with intention. I don't want to put something out there because I have it. I want to do it right and good the first time. Like, I'm not a half-asser. Like, I have to, it's like, I have very all or nothing thinking. I have ADHD. So it's just like, either do it big or not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, I wanted to do the gallery this year, but I think I'm going to have to wait probably until the end of the year or next year. And I think that it's important because having those two pictures in a room full of pictures were great, but it didn't tell the bigger part of the story. So I needed to do that to understand what I really want
Mm-hmm.
out of showing my pictures.
Mm-hmm. How are you gonna do
If
that
that makes
working full time?
I don't know, girl. But I'm going to figure it out.
Well, you have a year, at least a year, to figure it
Pretty
out.
sure anybody that works with me full time is like, yeah, girl, how are you going to figure that out? Sometimes I'm at work and I'm like, what are you doing? How are you
You'll
doing
figure
this
it
right
out.
now?
You'll figure it out.
I always figure it out. And
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, that's just been my mentality. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it
What's
out.
keeping you going now? Like, what is it that Because you're not making much money off it, right? You just started. Like what? It's been a year since you posted on Instagram, but you've been taking photos since 2021 for this collection. What keeps you going?
I think seeing the trajectory of other people's lives after meeting fills me with such happiness. Seeing how I meet someone that has, like, say, they're still trying to discover what it means for them to be Cambodian. And then having that meeting and then us staying in communication with one another and then seeing how they progress from that. And then I'm like, okay, who else can I do that to? It's just like infectious joy, like just spreading that. That's what keeps me going. And just knowing that I can make an impact as small as, having someone be like, I don't know that yet, but I'll go find it out. And then they continuously kind of like do that discovery process, even when I'm not there. I think that's what keeps me going. And just seeing other people on this journey. I think the psychology of people is what keeps me going. I just really thoroughly enjoy seeing people heal these, like, wounds, these generational wounds that they didn't realize that they were carrying with them.
Yeah, and you're putting that in pictures and a short caption, and it's powerful work that you're doing, and it's important work too, because like you said, we have to own our own narrative.
Yeah.
We don't want the stories to be told by other people. We want it to be
Oh no.
told by
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And we are multifaceted, we're multidimensional, we're not just survivors, we're thriving now too. And I want to show that part of our community, that we are a community of resilience, and that we're not these victims anymore, and we're
Right.
doing
Yeah.
some amazing work, and you are part of that. You're part of this
Yeah.
rebirth.
Thank you. And I think it's important to show people that there's not one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm not the most well-spoken person out there. I'm not the most educated. I'm not the most book smart, but I can tell you that I'm good at what I do. So, and I feel like a lot of people need to remember that maybe there's something that they haven't made to discover yet. And yeah, maybe they haven't tapped into something that they don't realize that they have.
Yeah. So here's a call to all you people out there who want to do something, who want to create something, just get it out there.
Yes, I 100% co-sign on that.
All right. So you want to do an exhibit, you want to do a book. Is there anything else that you have that you want to do? I know that you said you don't know where this is going to go, but it feels good. So you're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I don't really have an end goal.
No.
I don't. And I think it's just to constantly just keep creating that. I know sometimes it feels like I might be wasting a lot of my own resources, but I think at the end of the day, if something were to happen to me, my son would have a huge community of people that were like,
you're leaving a legacy behind.
yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've been questioning about this whole project is what is it? What am I leaving behind for him? And I'm like, well, it's a legacy, because legacies aren't always like tangible things. And I think, yeah, that's what he's basically like the reason behind a lot of things. It may not seem like it because he's not present a lot on social media, but that's because he asked me not to do that. So I just, respect his wishes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's basically the reason why
How
I
old is he?
started doing it. He'll be 8 this year.
Okay.
8 going on 28.
Sounds like my daughter. My daughter is 8 as well. And
yeah.
It's
He's stressed out like me. He's little me.
Oh. You know what I wanted to ask you, growing up, who did you look up to? I always think it's important to have a mentor in your life or someone that you aspire to be like or are just in awe of.
I saw that question and I didn't really have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of people that I didn't want to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that, yeah, I don't even have an answer for that. I definitely think it was more of like, I don't want to be like that. I will say that when it comes to like who inspired me, I would find little things in everyone that I met along the way of my life, and I would just pull that one thing and be like, I want to be like that specific
Mm-hmm.
characteristic. So I find inspiration through everyone. I don't think that I have it from like any one person.
Mm-hmm. And I think the work that you're doing right now allows for people to have that opportunity, to have that access. Because when we were growing up, we didn't really have that, right? We didn't have the people that are making an impact. We didn't have that spotlighted.
No. Mm-mm. And I think the great thing is I'm making it more accessible for us in multiple different communities on one platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also encouraging people to go out and meet other people, not just online, but in person. You don't have to research everything about them, just meet them in person and have a conversation. Because I think that in this digital age, we forget how to sit down and talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're meeting a lot of people now that are doing incredible work and making an impact in their community in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do you still find inspiration in everyone that you're meeting now too?
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of people, when I reach out to them and ask them to be photographed, they say, "Me? I'd be honored. Why me?" And I'm like, "Because you're Canadian. I don't care I mean, like, you don't have to have a social media platform,
Right?
a billion followers. Like, I
Uh-huh.
want to talk to you about, you." And even if I do meet like influencers, I always try to make them understand that when we do meet, I don't need anything from them. I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important even for influencers or people that have a big social media presence, that I always ask them, what is something that you don't get to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time when I ask them that, they don't really have an answer.
Mm.
And so that's something that I do want to do, is that I would love to like feature them, but I think it's more of like,
In a different light?
yes, it's about, the things that you don't talk about. Um, and maybe that's just me therapizing it, but it's just because, you see someone in this light of like, say they're, in the food industry and they're making an impact with doing pop-ups and things like that, or they're a chef, and it's like, but let's talk about like the non-food world. Like, let's go there. And I think there's a reason why I haven't been able to do that, because they probably don't want to talk about anything that they're not already presently doing. So,
Mm.
do I have to feature them? I don't have to. I think it's important that everyone gets a seat at the table. That's how I say it. Everybody.
Is that your tagline?
Yes.
I love it. What are one or two things that you want listeners to take away from your story? Last question.
I think, and I wrote this down because I was like, I do want to say it. It's never too late. Do it now and just do it afraid. You're never going to be ready. I'm still not ready, and I'm still doing it.
And you're still making an impact.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. I don't know how I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
there, but I'm going to get there. And I think that's just very important for people to know, like, yes, you might not have all the answers now, but you'll get there. You'll figure it out along the way.
That piece of advice is so important to me right now because I'm navigating a major pivot in my life too. I just had resigned 2 weeks ago and I'm currently unemployed. This podcasting thing
You're
is
fun
what I'm doing
employed.
now.
I call it fun
I'm fun
employed.
employed. Yeah, I'm fun employed. Yeah. Yeah. I get to be yeah, I get to take my kids to school now though,
Yeah,
which I
see,
didn't
yeah, that's
get to do
awesome.
before. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Denise.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing your work grow and
I look forward to
just
seeing you in
dominate.
person.
Yes, that too. Yeah, we'll hang out, have some wine. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. Askon Khmer, we've had to say that all our lives, haven't we? And some of us are still saying that, like Denise. I'm saying that still. I'm saying that now because you know my situation. I loved our conversation and I trust you found inspiration in Denise's story. I'd love to see her doing her thing in Canada one day. If you don't know, that's where I am. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And a reminder, if you're listening to this before the last weekend of March 2026, Denise will be at the Khmer Diaspora Conference in Lowell, as well as a few other guests like Mal Beckett, Sopon Sang, and Rothani Sar. So you may bump into them if you are attending the conference too. Let me know in a DM on social media if you'll be there too, and I want to connect in real life. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it too. Okay, បងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាសូមអរគុណច្រើន for listening to Khmer Voices. Don't forget to give the show a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode.